In this guide, we're going to learn how to do an advanced automation setup that's going to allow you to do 8-step mixes, giving your product the maximum amount of effects and potentially getting the highest price with the right mix. Let's start off with equipment. I have 13 large storage racks. 8 of these large storage racks are going to be for mixing stations, and of those 8, each mixing station is going to correspond to one single mixing machine and hold one single ingredient. And I have all of these storage racks behind their corresponding mixing station. Then 3 of the 13 large storage racks are going to be for resupplying chemistry stations. And each of these large storage racks is going to have the ingredients we need for the chemistry stations. So in this case, pseudo, acid, and phosphorus. And make sure that you either have one stack per storage rack, or you have your stacks organized to where from left to right and top to bottom, it will be pseudo, acid, and phosphorus in equal amounts. Because a handler is going to be grabbing these, and say you have 2 stacks of pseudo next to each other, they're just going to take 2 stacks of pseudo over to the station and fill 2 of the ingredients with pseudo, and then it won't be made. But if you have it like this, then they'll fill up the pseudo, phosphorus, and acid, because they'll grab the ingredients in this order. Then we have one large storage rack that's going to have packaging containers, and we'll be resupplying the packaging station. Then the final large storage rack is going to take whatever's packaged at the packaging station and hold it. Then we're going to have 8 mixing stations, each mixing station corresponding to one ingredient that it will be mixing into our product. And the starting mixing station in the line I have as an MK2, because all of the product will ultimately be delivered to this first. So having this get our product started fast will help reduce bottlenecking in our process. Then we're going to have 3 chemistry stations, each with a lab oven next to them. So 3 chemistry stations and 3 lab ovens. This is just the amount I have, but you can add in more chemistry stations and lab ovens, or interchange these with whatever you need for the product that you're intending to make. Before we get started with employees, let's route all of our machines. So first we'll do the chemistry stations and the lab ovens. We're going to choose to manage the chemistry stations, choose the recipe as liquid meth for all of them, and we're going to route our destinations like this. Destination from chemistry station to lab oven, and then from lab oven, we're going to go to the first mixing station in our line, and we're just going to do this same process for every chemistry station we have. So chemistry station to lab oven to first mixing station in our line. Then for the mixing stations, our destination for each mixing station will be the mixing station that's the next in line. So choose the mixing station next to your mixing station for the first 4. And if you look at the route, it's going to look like this. So if you have your management clipboard out, you can see the route of where they're going. Once you get to the 4th, we're going to jump over to here, and then keep going down the line. Once you get to your last mixing station, our destination is going to change over to the packaging station. Then finally, our packaging station's destination is going to be the shelf we're going to have our finished product on. So I'll quickly go over how all the machines are routed again. We can look at the lines. Chemistry stations go to lab ovens, which go to the first mixing station in line. So I'll go over that briefly again. If you have your clipboard out, you can see where they're going. So our chemistry stations are each going to go to their own lab oven, and then that lab oven will go to the first mixing station in line. Then our mixing stations are each going to chain together until they get down to the product packaging station. Then the packaging station will go to our shelf for a finished product. Now that we're finished with all the machine routing, let's set up our employees. And for our employees with this setup, we are going to want 5 chemists and 3 handlers. I'll start with the handlers. So let's manage one of our handlers, and we're going to add 5 routes to this handler. We're going to start with a from route, and we're going to go from our large storage rack that has our first ingredient to our first mixing station. Then we're going to do a from route from our second ingredient to our second mixing station. We're just going to keep doing this process And if you accidentally close the route without clicking one, just go back to the handler, choose the from. So what that first handler will be doing is taking product from the shelves and giving it to its corresponding mixing station. Now let's manage our other handler. We're just going to add the maximum routes to them as well. And we're just going to finish off all of the ingredients we haven't done yet. Then we'll also assign this handler with the packaging station. So click assign stations and give them the packaging station. Finally, we'll give them a route from our storage rack that has our baggies or other containers on it to the packaging station. Then with our final handler, we're going to assign them 3 routes. And their routes are going to be from our racks that have the ingredients for the chemistry station to the chemistry stations. So just choose one large storage rack each. If you don't have a storage rack for each specific chemistry station, then they'll fill the ingredients disproportionately, and you'll end up with a situation where one chemistry station is going to have way more ingredients than the others. And that takes care of our handlers. And now we're going to set up our chemists. And 3 of our chemists are actually only going to be working on mixing stations. And we're going to alternate the mixing stations so that they're working as much as possible. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So let's manage our chemists, assign a station, and we're going to give this one the first mixing station in line, assign another station, and we're going to skip 2 and give him the third one in line. Then we're going to assign another station, skip 2, and give them the 7th one in line. Now let's go to our second chemist, and we are going to assign them the second station. Then we're going to skip 3 stations again to the 5th station, and assign them the 8th station as well. Then we're going to assign our last mixing chemist, and they are going to be taking care of station 3 and station 6. Now if we have our management clipboard out and we look at the mixing stations, we'll see a picture of a different chemist on each different machine as we go down the line. And this is correct. We do not want the same chemist to be working on 2 machines in succession. The reason for that is because if the chemist is working on this one, then they can't be working on this one at the same time. So having them alternate this way, this chemist will be able to pass down product to here, and then this chemist can be working while he's still working on the same batch. And then once he moves it down the line far enough, this chemist will be free again and able to work down the line. But if you have the same chemist working on 2 so what's going to happen if you have the same chemist on 2 machines right next to each other that are going down the line, is if they get 20 crystal on their station, they're only able to mix 10 at a time. So they're going to mix 10 and pass it down the line. Then they're going to go back and start mixing 10 again. So they'll be stuck on one batch while this batch could be getting mixed. That's why we alternate, because we don't want that to slow down our production. Now finally, we're going to assign our chemists that are going to be working on cooking. So choose one of the unassigned chemists and assign them to the chemistry station. Then also assign them to the cooking station next to it. Then we'll assign them to another chemistry station. We're going to go back to our other one, and we're going to assign them to the oven next to that station. Assign them to the next chemistry station, and assign them to the next oven. It doesn't really matter the order that you assign them to the ovens and chemistry stations, because ultimately, as long as the chemistry stations are routed to the ovens and the ovens are routed to the mixing station, it will all be the same. And if you want to have a cleaner for this setup, you can just assign them 3 trash cans, and the trash cans are going to be right here in front of this mixing station, down here at the end of that first line. Then we're going to have a break in the line and have one right here, and that will make it to where they can cover all of the trash that's going to be made during the assembly process. And a couple of things I want to point out to make sure you don't get stuck in your assembly line process is when you get a new mix. So if you've never made a product before, you actually need to go up to the mixing station and investigate it and you have to check out the new mix before the workers will pass it on to the next step. So if you've never made a product before, they're not going to move it at all until you've investigated it and clicked done on the product. Then the other thing that might get you stuck, I mentioned this at the beginning of the video, but you need to make sure that on your storage racks that are going to your chemistry stations, you have pseudo, acid, and phosphorus in order on the chemistry station. Otherwise, say you have two stacks of pseudo like this next to each other, they're going to take both of those pseudos over to the chemistry station. They're going to put them in like this at the chemistry station, and then they'll be stuck because no one will be cooking and using the ingredients. Then they will just keep restocking whatever's here. And if for some reason you're still having problems with that, just put the ingredients in yourself at max stacks for each of them. Then go to your storage racks and refill stuff. As long as you have enough to where you never run out in the process of making crystal or whatever you're cooking, they will just be refilling the existing stacks in the ingredients. And that way, no matter what order you have them in on the storage rack, they'll do it right. Keep in mind that this process does have a slow start until they've actually cooked some batches and start all the mixes and get everything going. Not everyone is going to be working full speed, but as long as you keep everything restocked, once they finish their initial batches of crystal, then you'll start pumping out product way faster. I would say once you have everything restocked, after about 2 days, they'll be going full speed on the whole process. You'll be getting about 90 of your 8 mix product per day on average, with the setup of 3 chemistry stations. Now I'm going to pay them all and make sure everything's working correctly. Remember, you do have to assign beds to every employee and give them enough cash for their daily wage or they won't work. And the process is working. It takes a little bit of a startup, but once it gets going, you're going to be making product really fast and being able to do 8-step mixes with pretty little effort. So once you have all this set up, your job is just going to be restocking ingredients and restocking baggies, as well as distributing the final product. Here's what we ended up making: this shiny fruit, paranoia, sneaky, bright-eyed, tropic thunder, energizing, laxative, and thought-provoking. I definitely have to tweak this mix because it's not really worth that much for an 8-step mix. There are a few spots down the line that it lost value instead of gained value when I mix stuff with it, so I'll have to swap out some ingredients. But the concept is really the point of this video, so that once you know a really good mix, you'll be able to automate it. Some final tips I have are, while you're mixing your product, check what the price is at different points in the process. And if the price is going down at any point in the process, swap out the ingredient that made the price go down for something else and see if you can make it go up instead. And just keep swapping around ingredients until you get a really good mix. But remember, if you discovered a new product at a mixing station, your chemists are not going to work at that mixing station until you use the mixing station and check out the new product you made. Then I have 2 more tips. One of them is open your phone and go to this deliveries, and you can order your mixers and just order large quantities of these mixers to wherever you're making the product. And you don't have to grab these fast at all. So the van will just sit out here with all the products that you ordered, and that can make it really easy to restock whatever you do need restocked. And you can have up to 320 mixers per order. The other thing you can do is buy the Jeeper. I think it's the second car at the dealer, and it has huge trunk space. So you can just drive this up to the gas station and fill up your mixers and then come back with that, and that'll speed up your restocking process. Also, keep in mind that time stops every day at 4. So once it hits 4 o'clock, you can do all of your restock without having to worry about customers texting you or getting new deals or anything. And that's everything.